Hey everyone, good evening. I'm so excited to be here and to do the Snowman class in this group with all of you. So I came live a few minutes early just for everybody to get the notification that I'm live. So you have an opportunity to join the live, kind of get yourself organized. So I'm just gonna hang tight and wait for people to see that I'm here so they can join my live, and then we can get started in a few minutes. Hi, hey, how are you? Is it Wednesday? Happy Wednesday. Gosh, where has this week already gone? Hi, Bernadette, welcome. So I'm going to show you so I made these cute little snowmen today. So this is what I'm going to be showing you tonight is a basic hand knit chunky snowman. So I believe her name is Barb. She makes some really beautiful snowmen that she posted here in this group that have like elaborate hats and elaborate scarves, and she does like buttons for the eyes and buttons for the bellies. This is whatever you want it to be. So this is me just going to show you how to create a basic chunky knit snowman tonight. But if you want to go crazy with yours and like hand knit or crochet a beautiful hat and a matching scarf, or make different accessories, this is totally, you can do whatever you want to do. But tonight I'm just going to show you how to create this snowman only using chunky yarn. I think these are cute just with chunky yarn. It's literally just some black yarn for the eyes, some orange yarn for the nose, of course the white for the snowman, and just whatever color you choose for the scarf if you have leftover yarn hanging around, whatever. So I think we'll have quite a few people on the live, so I'm going to just give it a couple minutes for everybody to actually get situated, knowing I'm here and that I'm ready to teach this class. So I guess while I'm sitting here, I can do a little intro on myself. We've got a lot of new people in this group. I think we're almost up to 3,000 now. So this group has grown significantly in a super short amount of time. I actually started this group. It was one of my classes that I teach online, and I kind of converted it to where all of my students, after I teach online classes, go in one place so they can be notified of upcoming classes I have, just different things I'm working on, and just a space for us to all share, like what we love creating with the chunky yarn. So that's kind of how the group began. So obviously, for many of you, see my name pop up. My name is Heather McCleskey. I'm a mom. I live in Michigan, and I started actually creating things with chunky yarn about a year ago. I wanted to make some blankets for my kids for Christmas, and I think a lot of people start off in that same place. They see it online like I did, and they're like, I love that. I want to learn how to do that. So I kind of took off from there because I just started sharing a little bit of it on my social media, and I just started kind of creating some content and videos. And then from there, I started teaching some really fun online classes. So if you don't know that part, obviously I'm teaching an online class in here tonight. I teach beginner online chunky blanket classes, usually once or twice a month. I just finished one on November 10th. I am thinking of having another one on November 25th, just depending on how many people I would have that would like to join. So if you want to learn how to make a chunky blanket and you have not yet mastered the basic stitch and you want to actually take one of my classes, let me know below so I can kind of get like a gauge on, because it's being holidays and people are super busy, just to see if I would have like a decent amount of students who would want to join. So the way my classes work is similar to this format. I create a private Facebook group just for that specific class. You register through a link. My beginner classes are $15 a person, and I teach the basic beginner stitch. So I'll show you what I mean, because for a lot of people who have never made chunky blankets before, you can do like a looser stitch, but this is the stitching that I teach in my classes. I teach a tighter stitch. This is actually a Green Bay Packers blanket that I made for somebody today. But this is what I teach in my class. So I teach you how to create a chunky blanket, how to do the foundational row, how to do add-on from that, how to add on skeins using the burn method, how to finish off your blanket, and how to care for your blanket. Most of my beginner classes are about an hour in length. So I'm thinking of doing one on the 25th, but you guys let me know if you want to take it. I know we got a lot of new people in here and a lot of people who have never even created a chunky blanket yet. So if you haven't, I would love to have you. Since last February, I think I've taught I'm probably over almost 800 people now that I've taught to make chunky blankets, which is super fun. And the way that I teach them, I like the format, besides just going and like purchasing a video and then never having that connection with the person who is your teacher, is I'm there to give feedback. You're there with your other students who are learning at the same time to share your progress. It's fun to be like, look at what I created. Here's my design. Here's my pattern. Here's the color choices I use. I think we all want community. I know I do, and I love to be a part of that. So anyway, that's how my online classes work. For those of you who've taken several of my classes, I've taught like pumpkin classes, different pattern classes. If you are not new to making chunky blankets and you want to take a different stitch and learn a different stitch before the holidays, this is a flower cable stitch pattern. This is beautiful. I'm teaching this class actually a week from today, so November 25th. This class is going to be taught in the same format in a Facebook Live. This class is $25 a person, and obviously it's a more in-depth class because I'm going to actually be teaching you this entire stitch, and we're going to be creating a blanket together. So I've got several, I'm going to say I have like 35 people signed up for that class already. But if you are not new to making chunky blankets and you want to learn that new beautiful stitch, I'd love to have you. I will post the registration links for my upcoming classes in here too. Sometimes with a lot of things happening in a Facebook group, it gets lost in the shuffle. So just know that anything important that I find valuable, whether it be classes or different patterns that somebody shared, or like some of the tutorials that I've already made, like on how to correct a missed stitch, how to add a heart to your chunky blanket, how to add on different colors of skeins, those are all in the featured section of this group. So if you don't know where that is, as soon as you go to the top of the page of this group, there's those little tabs on the top. If you click on featured, it is going to show you all of the stuff that I have added to the feature that I feel is valuable, that you can find in one place without having to scroll the entire content of the group. Obviously, that's why Facebook set that up, to make life a little bit easier for all of us as we're, doing a Facebook group together. So I love teaching in this way. It's just so fun to me. So thank you guys for being here. Like, we have 108 people on here today. This is so exciting. Just to make a snowman. I mean, these are so cute, and I was like, what a perfect time, right? Right before the holidays. So whether you're going to make them, and maybe you do some things and you sell some things at craft shows, etc., or you just want to learn to make some for decor, or you want to give them for Christmas gifts. I did put in the group an actual written pattern. It's a PDF. It's very simple. It's basic. I don't know if you had an opportunity to print it off. If you didn't, don't worry about it. It's not necessary for tonight's class. I'm going to walk you through every single step, but for reference, it's a great little pattern that I typed up really quick. So supplies that you're going to need, I kind of already went through that, but I'm going to go through that again with you before we actually start tonight. So you obviously need your white yarn for your snowman. And then just depending on what you're going to do with your snowman, how you're going to decorate it, I have my black skein of yarn because this is what I'm going to use for his eyes. And then I have my orange skein of yarn because this is what I use for his cute little nose. And then I just have a few little extras of some different yarn that I have just the ends of, and that's what I'll use for the scarf. So like I said at the beginning of the class, your imagination it's all up to you how you want your snowman to look. I'm going to teach you how to build the body. I'm going to teach you how to put the eyes and the nose and the scarf on using the chunky yarn material. But if you want to do buttons, if you want to do beautiful hats and different types of crocheted scarves, I know that Barb has put something in. Again, it's in the featured. She spent time typing up a beautiful pattern on how to crochet the snowman hat and the scarf. I myself do not know how to crochet. I think that's why I fell in love with doing, sorry, my dogs are gonna bark. I think that's why I fell in love with doing chunky blankets, because I don't know how to actually knit and I don't know how to crochet, and I felt like this was something that I could totally do and master. So that's why I really love it. So I apologize if my dogs start barking. Somebody's gonna be walking through my door here in a couple minutes. So that's all the yarn that you need. And then obviously you need your polyfill for the stuffing for the inside of your snowman. You need a lighter and a pair of scissors. Everybody always asks me about my lighter. These are called torch lighters. You can buy them on Amazon. I got this one at a local hardware store. I just love it. This is what I always use when I'm working with chunky yarn. So, okay, so there's a lot of people on here tonight, so I'm probably not going to be able to answer questions as easily as I would if we had a smaller class like I do when I teach my online blanket classes. However, I will do my very best to answer people as we go along. I can kind of watch and do what I'm doing and teach and usually look up and answer questions. Just know this, a couple things, housekeeping before we actually get started with the actual tutorial. If you want to get rid of the comments because they're distracting to you, I know that they can be for me even at times, you can swipe your phone to the left or the right depending on what type of phone you have, and you can get rid of those comments so they're not distracting and they're not in your way. And this video is going to stay up in this group forever. A lot of people ask that, like, what if I can't watch the live? Or what if I miss the class? The class is always going to be here. You can come back and rewatch this as many times as you need to like refresh yourself. Like, oh shoot, I forgot how to make a snowman. I need to go back and watch how to do that. Okay. So it's not going anywhere. It's going to be here permanently in this group, and I will pin it to the featured once tonight's class is over, along with the actual PDF file of the Chunky Knit Snowman too. So if you need that for reference, you can print that off as well. So I'm excited to actually get started. I think those are all the things that I wanted to talk to you about, but I just first want to say thank you for being here with me. Like, this group is so amazing already, and we're just kind of getting started building it and creating some momentum in here. I've got a lot of new things headed your way. I make it a goal for myself to at least learn, 1 to 2 new patterns every single month so I can turn around and teach those things. But I have some really exciting things coming up at the beginning of the year that are going to involve yarn, and I can't kind of say anything at this point besides that. But I'm just really excited to be collaborating with another person who is super knowledgeable in the space of yarn and just crocheting and all things yarn in all of those avenues. So I've got a lot of exciting things, and all because I just kind of started a new craft and I just kind of have ran with it. So I'm excited as those things come to be sharing those with you. So let's actually get started with tonight's class. I'm excited to teach you guys. I was going to literally title it, do you want to build a snowman from Frozen? Because it's one of my favorite movies, but I wasn't sure if everybody would get that reference. I'm sure you do. But anyways, so first thing you're going to do is we're going to remove your yarn from the skein. If you have the label, just take that label off and then just pull it so you have your end of your yarn and you're ready to go. Now, if you have never made anything before, some of this stuff might be foreign to you, and I will try to do my best to make sure that I cover all the bases. So first of all, the first thing we're going to do to get started on creating our snowman is we're going to create a slip knot. So a slip knot is as simple as taking your yarn and folding it over itself, and then taking your working yarn. Anytime I refer to working yarn, that means the yarn that's attached to your skein, okay? So you're going to take your working yarn and you're going to push it through that loop that you just made, and you're going to create what they call a slip knot, okay? So this is step 1 to making your snowman. And the first thing we're going to do is make our foundational loops, just like we do when we're creating a chunky blanket, right? But this is obviously going to be much smaller. You're going to want a tail on your snowman, on your first foundational chain. So it can be like 6 to 8 inches long. We're actually going to use this to close up the bottom of the snowman. So make sure that you have a good chunk of a tail hanging there. Okay. So unlike making a blanket where we use our 3 fingers to know what size each one of our foundational chains is going to be, I want you to use 2 fingers as your guide tonight. So as long as 2 of your fingers fits kind of loosely through, that's the size of the loop I'd like you to make. So this is my first one. This is my slip knot. Very basic and simple. If you guys have questions, you can feel free to post those below. I'm going to try to keep the pace. I'm assuming most people in here that are watching probably are familiar with a lot of the terminology I'm using as far as like foundational loops and slip knots. But first thing is make your slip knot. Now we're going to go on and we're going to make 12 foundational loops. Okay, so this slip knot is counted as 1. So now you're going to take your working yarn and you're going to push it through your slip knot and pull it forward to create another loop. So that's 2, and again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, if you took my pumpkin class, this will seem familiar to you because this is close to how you make a pumpkin. So this is what your first step 1 is 12 foundational loops. This is what your foundational loops should look like. They're not going to be as loose as you would make if you were making a chunky blanket. They're only 2 fingers wide, so you want them a little bit tighter. This is going to become the bottom of your snowman, okay? So this is what your 12 foundational loops. And if you guys want to chime in and just be like, got it, perfect, understand, in the comments, that would be helpful for me as well. So I can just make sure that the majority of people watching are understanding as I'm directing and going along. But this is what we're doing first, our 12 foundational loops. Super easy. Okay, I think everybody probably got that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a circle with this foundational chain that I just made. So you're going to take your tail and you're going to slip it through that last loop that you just made. And then you're going to take your working yarn and you're going to pull it and you're going to make it tight around that tail where you just stuck through that loop. So now your foundational chain is now a circle. And your tail was stuck through that last loop and you pulled that loop tight by pulling on your working yarn. And this is what it's going to look like, okay? You're making a circle. So now you're going to lay that on the table in front of you. And if your tail is facing up like mine is right now, you're going to want to flip your work over so your tail is on the bottom of your table or your working surface, okay? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start building the body of the snowman. And how we're going to do that is we are going to create knits in the top of each one of those foundational loops that we just created. So we just created 12 foundational loops. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create 12 knits. So just like how we do when we create a blanket, we're going to go to the top of the loop. So if you can see right here, kind of on the top of the foundational chain, I can stick my finger through each one of those. This is where we're going to push our working yarn through. So you're going to take your working yarn and you're going to find that first hole and you're going to take your working yarn. Your working yarn should be on the top of your work, right? So the tail's on the bottom of the table and then my working yarn is on the top of my circle. So now I'm going to take that working yarn and I'm going to pull it through and I'm going to make my first knit. And you are going to do that all the way around the circle. So you find that space where your thumb fits and you pull your working yarn through that and you push it up to create what they call a knit. Now, if you're familiar with making chunky blankets, this is basically obviously the similar thing, right? You're just creating knits. So you're going to find that space in the top of your foundational chain of your loop and you're going to pull your yarn through. And you're going to do that until you have 12 knits around your loop. This is going to be row number 1 and we are going to create 8 rows. So we're going to go around this 8 times and this is going to build the body of our snowman. And if your tail gets in the way as it's sitting on the table, you can just move it out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to show you what mine looks like and I'm going to hold it up. So here is what I have so far. So here was my foundational chain And now here are my 12 knits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we're going to go around this 7 more times. So as you're looking at your work, what I do at this point, once I've made my first row, is I take my work and I turn it inside out. So the loops are kind of like this. They're kind of sticking out like this. And then your working yarn is kind of in the inside, and now you're going to start going around again, and you're just going to keep going around every single one of those 12 loops. And you're going to do that 7 rotations around. So if you need to count, or a trick I learned is stick a pen or a pencil in the loop that you just finished, so you know where you ended and where you need to count a rotation again. So for me, I ended at my tail, so I kind of know that my tail is my guide, right? So now I'm going to go around again, and this is going to be row number 2. We are going to create 8 rows. And if anybody wants to drop in the comments, I don't know if my comments are lagging on tonight's live at all, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Just let me know how you're doing, if you're understanding and following along. So I'm just continuing my knits all the way around my circle. Okay, so I just passed my tail again. So that's my second row, and now I'm working on row number 3. Again, we're going to do 8 rows. So you're going to go along this 8 times. So you're going to knit your 12 knits 8 times. And this is what's going to build the first part of the body of your snowman. And I'll hold mine up and I'll kind of show you guys what this looks like so far. As you're working on yours, you can kind of see a point of reference. Also, kind of a tip, make sure that you are not having like slack in your yarn, like from each knit to knit, right? So as I'm going around the circle, I'm kind of moving my work with me, because I want to make sure that my yarn, I don't have like a big gap in between each one of these knits. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have gaps in your snowman then as you stuff it with your polyfill. And if you do, it's okay. I've got some tricks I can show you as far as kind of filling any of those voided spaces, because they do happen. This isn't perfect. It's not going to look exactly perfect, but that's the beauty of working with chunky yarn. I feel like it's very forgiving and it's fun to work with. So it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Okay, so I am on 2, 3. I am working on row number 4 myself. I'm trying to count at the same time of talking. So if you want to, I don't know if I just can't, I'm not seeing comments. I'm seeing a lot of people on, but I'm not seeing a lot of comments, but sometimes they catch up later. But if you just want to drop a comment, let me know how you're doing. It's kind of hard for me to, I'm actually not seeing any comments at this point. So if anybody's making comments, if they're in a space and they're not sure if they're stuck or they're lost. And the beauty is you can, once this video is finished tonight, you will be able to review it and watch it and pause it and go back or forward. So you can watch it at your pace. You can pause it if you need to. It's whatever you choose to do. Okay. So, and if you need to count, maybe you lost count of your rows too. Here's where I started with my tail. So I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll be 5 once I get over there. I've went around 5 times already. So now I'm going on my 6, and you're going to do this 8 times around. So as you can see, I literally have a body of a snowman building right before my eyes. And I will hold it up for you too, so you can see it. So just make sure that you're not having a lot of lag in your yarn in between each knit, because that's going to make sure that you have a tighter looking snowman. Okay, I'll hold mine up so you guys. So far, this is what mine looks like. So if you need to count, it's kind of hard with white to really point it out, but if you need to count your rows, you know that this is your foundational chain right here, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I'm on 6. I'm on 7 over here, but on 6 over here. So this is what it looks like so far. Okay. So once you've gotten to the place where you've gone around 8 times, just pause and we'll wait for everybody else to get caught up on building your first part of your body of your snowman before we move on to the second part. And again, I did type these up in the pattern directions. And if you actually print those out and rewatch this video, if you're like, wait, I'm lost, it will make more sense with you when you can refer to the actual PDF file on paper in front of you and then actually what I'm teaching you here physically as well. I don't know about you, but I'm a visual learner, so sometimes I need to do both. I need to read what's going on, and then I also need to see the demonstration before my brain goes, okay, I get it. Okay, so let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'm on 7, so I got to go around one more time. And I'll show you guys what mine looks like once I go around and finish. Which is right there. Okay, so I went 8 around. So this is what my body of my snowman looks like so far. I wish I could see the comments. I see people watching, but I don't actually see comments. Okay, so this is what, oh, okay. Oh, perfect. So Patty said she uses a tiny little hair clip to mark her spot, which is perfect. I just usually stick a pen or a pencil, but Patty, that makes more sense because my pen's always falling out of the hole. So I appreciate that. So these loops right here are just going to basically be like the size of your thumb. See how I can stick my thumb in and out of them? You don't want your loops to be the width of 2 fingers when you're doing the loops that are building your snowman up this way, because you're going to have gaps then. See how my rows are pretty tight on my snowman? So when I go to stuff this, you're not going to be able to see the polyfill in between. Okay, awesome. Diane's done. Yeah, now I'm seeing the comments. So if you like made a comment a long time ago, they're just popping up now and I don't know why. And Elizabeth, you can go back and watch this as many times as you need to. I'm trying to see I can now see your comments, you guys. Before I literally saw 0 comments pop up, which is super weird, but I think it's just because there's so many people on at one time. Okay, so some people are done. They've got this completed. So this is what it's going to look like. So you did your 12 foundational loops on the bottom. And then for the top of each one of your foundational loops, you created a knit and you should have had 12 knits. Then once you had your knits, you're just going to go around and knit those 12 knits 8 times, okay? Okay, so I'm going to move on because a lot of people are at that space. So now what we're going to do before we move on and build the top part of the snowman is we're going to close out the bottom and we're going to fill what we have so far. So the tail that we left on here earlier, what we're going to do is we are going to take this tail and we are going to loop it through these little spaces on the bottom of our foundational row. And you can do every other one. So you can see that my thumb is here and I'm going to literally take my tail and I'm just going to weave it through. So you're going to basically weave it through like every other bottom of your foundational loops. It doesn't have to be every one. And what this is going to do is this is going to pull the bottom together so we can seal up the bottom and we can fill our snowman. So you can see that I'm going every other one. So this is my next one. And then here's my next one. And my next one. Okay, now I'm gonna pull. So you just pull, and as you pull, it closes the bottom of the snowman. So now I no longer have a hole in the bottom. I just have the rest of my tail sitting here. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just create a knot and try to create that knot as close to the bottom of that you can and pull it tight. So see, I created a knot, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tail and this knot and I'm just going to stick it in the inside of my snowman. So at the bottom it's all closed up and you can't see that there was a tail, and then the tail is in the inside. So see? Okay. And I know a lot of people are saying like, your chat. Yes. I don't know if Facebook is just being weird tonight and just the comments are having a hard time popping up, but you might be watching this right now and be like, I have no idea. I'm totally lost. And that's okay. If you rewatch this again and have your piece of paper next to you and just go through it slowly, you're going to totally get it. I promise you. It's hard sometimes I have to watch something a few times, and that's okay. I've had to watch several things many times over in order to, especially if you've never made anything with chunky yarn yet. For those of you who know how to create stuff with chunky yarn and you've made blankets, this is probably a no-brainer. So I can't undo what I did, but what you're going to do is when you have your opening on your bottom, you're going to take your tail and see these little gaps in the bottom of it's the bottom of your foundational chain. You can just kind of pull up the bottom of it and you'll see you're going to stick your tail through every other one of those, and you're going to pull your tail tight, and that's going to just close it up. You're basically just weaving that tail in between the bottom of every other loop on the bottom and then just pulling it tight, and that is going to make the bottom hole go away. You're going to pull it tight, and then you're going to make a knot, and you're just going to pull that tail into the inside of your snowman. So there will be nothing, and all you'll see is the bottom. So like just like this one I made today. Can't see that there was actually a hole there at one point. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next part. So the next part is take your polyfill, and you're going to fill the bottom part of your chunky knit snowman. So you just kind of fill it so the polyfill kind of sticks out a little bit, but it gives your snowman its body on the bottom. And then we're going to move on to building the next part. Now, before I actually do this next part, I'm going to explain it verbally before I demonstrate how to do this, especially if you've never done a decrease when it comes to chunky knitting or hand knitting. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit one and we're going to decrease by one. So what that means when you decrease by one is you're going to knit one. So I'm going to try to mark mine too because I don't want to get lost. Don't mind me, I'm just sticking my lighter in there. Okay, so I'm going to knit one, and then in order to decrease, you're going to take your next two loops that you have and you're going to join them. You're just going to take one and you're going to put it with the one next to it. So now you have two loops in one. So here's my two loops. So a decrease is literally just putting one knit over the top of the other and then knitting those two things together. So when I say knit one, decrease by one, that's what I mean. Okay, so we're gonna do this all the way around our circle. And once we're done doing this, we're gonna actually end up with 8 loops. So we're actually decreasing our loops by 4, okay? So knit 1, decrease 1. So here's my next one where I'm gonna knit 1, and then decrease by 1 is taking a loop and the loop next door and combining them, and then knitting those 2 loops together. So when you see a pattern and it says decrease by 1 in reference to chunky knitting, that is exactly what they mean. So what we're doing is we're making our snowman get a little bit skinnier, okay? So again, knit 1, decrease by 1. And we're gonna do this all the way around. So again, knit 1, put the 2 together, and then decrease by 1. Okay, so I now have 8 loops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So knit 1, decrease by 1, which means you put your 2 loops together and knit the 2 loops at one time. So all that's doing is basically decreasing the number of knits you now have in your working project, right? So now you have 8 knits in your working project. And what we're gonna do to continue to build our snowman is, now that we have this set of 8 knits, now we're gonna go around and we're gonna create 6 rows, just like we did on the bottom. We're gonna do 6 rows all the way around until we get, we're gonna do it 6 times. So we're gonna build six rows, okay? So just kind of keep track of where you're at. So what I normally do, like if I don't have a paper clip, which is a super smart idea, I'm gonna do that next time, I just count mine. So also, so now that's 1. So I'm 5 more rows to go. Also, as you're knitting around, make sure that you are trying to make your knits as close as possible, meaning you don't have a big space in between each knit. So then you won't have gaps in your snowman, right? So I'm making sure as I go around, so 1, I'm making sure that I'm pulling my yarn tight to make sure that I don't have a bunch of big gaps in my rows of my snowman. And I will show you what my progress looks like so far. So I believe I'm on 3 rows so far. So as you can see, we've got our big body down here, and then we're building this top part. So this is kind of like where the scarf is going to end up going, right? So as you can see, there's space, right? Because we're building up. So make sure you go around that 6 times. You're going to have 8 knits and you're going to go around 6 times. So as you all are also building this, feel free to grab some polyfill, and you can fill it kind of as you go. I did feel like when I was building these earlier, it's obviously a little bit of a tighter space up here. So I kind of filled as I went. So, but up to you. But I mean, you're still going to be able to put the polyfill in there. It's just a smaller space in order to get it in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 so far. So I'm going to take my polyfill and I'm just going to stick some more in there. And you can kind of see, like, obviously the snowman coming to shape, especially as you're adding more polyfill into it. So I've got to go around mine, I think, one more time. Okay, so here is mine. I'm done with my 6 rows up here. So as you can see, I'm going to teach you how to close the top before we actually do anything. Actually, we're going to do our eyes and our nose before we move forward from this. So if you haven't yet, you can stick more polyfill in to build the top part of your snowman. And then I'm going to show you guys how to do the eyes and the nose. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm working on it. I'm trying. Sometimes I'm like, sometimes I feel like I have a hard time explaining, but I think I'm hitting all the bases. So I appreciate your feedback very much. Thank you. So mine is completely full with polyfill. You know, when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a teacher, but that is not what I ended up doing in my life. So I give kudos to teachers. You guys all have a hard job. For any teachers in here, thank you for what you do. I have 3 children, and my last one is in the 8th grade. So I've got one daughter who's graduating from college in the spring, and then my son who graduated a few years ago. And teachers really work hard. My husband's actually a school bus driver. They also work hard. Okay, so let me get mine too. Stand up really quick. So now what we're going to do, if you're going to make the eyes and the nose out of your chunky yarn, you're going to want to grab your chunky yarn and you're going to cut off maybe 2.5, 3-inch pieces. So not very big, about this big. Okay. And you're going to do 2 of those for the eyes. So here's my eyeballs in the process. Oh, are you? Good for you. My husband says it's a beautiful gig, but it's a hard gig. And then also the same for your nose. So just again, probably 2 inches or so, 2.5 inches. So here is going to be my nose, and here are going to be my eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my tail I'm going to cut my yarn from my skein. Okay. So you want to leave a good chunk because this is going to be what you're going to weave in here in order to close the top of your snowman. So I would say like 6 inches or so. So I'm going to cut that off from my working skein and not pull out a loop like I just did. Okay. So I think I can do this facing you. Okay. So let's say this is the front of Mr. Snowman's face. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find 2 spots for his eyes, like this one, for his eyes and his nose. So kind of gauge, you can kind of see where his head is going to be, right? It's like just kind of going like this. So I would say like anywhere along here. And you can see that there's like these little, the rows, there's like a yarn that goes this way, right? Where you built your rows. So you're just going to find where you think the eyes are going to look right. And you're just going to push your yarn through one side of that and then the other. And you're literally just going to push it in. Just like that. Now, if you don't put your eyes close enough together, it's going to look like a ghost. So here's one eyeball. And then I'm going to probably skip a row. And then I'm going to go like right next door to that. And I'm going to find that kind of center where the yarn is horizontal. And I'm going to put the black yarn, one end on the top of it, and then weave it on the bottom of it. And you just push it in. Like there's no gluing it. You don't do anything. You just push it in. So it looks like this. How cute is that? Okay. Now we're going to find his little space for his nose. So kind of the same thing though. So here's are his eyes, and I would think, well, okay, his nose goes right here. So again, you're going to find that little yarn that goes horizontal, and you're going to take your orange yarn and you're going to push it through on the top and on the bottom. Now for the orange, I don't stick it flush like I do with the eyeballs. I kind of protrude it out. So it literally looks like a carrot sticking out like this. How many rows down do you put the eyes? So, okay, I don't have like a rhyme or reason, but let's see, 1, 2, 3. I would say 3 rows down from the top, try, because see, here's my top is right here. And you know what the beautiful part is? If your eyes and your nose look funky when you close up the head and you put the scarf on, it's so easy to, you can just move them because like they literally just pull out. It's not like we're gluing them in there. They're not forever. They're not permanent. So you can fiddle around with them. If it doesn't look right with your placement, you can play with it. Okay, so let me teach you how to close up the top of the head of your snowman. Okay, so we have our tail. So what we're going to do is we are going to weave this yarn tail to the inside of each loop, but make sure not to pull too hard because you'll pull out this loop. So no, I didn't know. These are just pieces of yarn. So if you watch the whole tutorial from the beginning, everything that I'm doing tonight with this snowman is nothing other than hand knitting with chunky yarn. The eyes are chunky yarn. The nose is chunky yarn. I didn't crochet anything. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our tail and we're going to feed it through the inside of every one of those loops. Just make sure not to pull too hard. So you're just going to weave them in the inside until you go through all 8 loops. You can kind of pull a little bit as you're going, but this is how you're going to close up the top of your snowman. And if you're just getting on, this is not going to make any sense, so you'll probably want to go back to the beginning. But I'm glad you're here. Okay, so now I have all of it weaved through the top. Now I'm just going to do this magical, beautiful thing and pull it. Closes the top of that snowman head up beautifully. So no, this is just white. I'm not using, this is just a white color. This is actually not Bernay Blanket Big or Hobby Lobby. This was just like some cheapy yarn I bought from Amazon just for these kinds of crafts to do like snowmen and stuff. Like I didn't use the Yarn Bee. I mean, all of them are great, obviously, but I kind of just got a cheaper version of a white just to play around with. And so I'm using up what I purchased. Okay, so once you pull that tight, you're just going to create a knot just like you did on the bottom of your snowman to seal it up. And the same thing, now you're going to take that tail and that little knot and you're going to just push it in the top of the head of your snowman. And voila, you cannot see anything. And I'm going to turn mine around so you can see. Here's the front of my snowman. So now what we're going to do is we are going to put the scarf on to complete our snowman. How cute is he? I love him. Okay, so I think I'm going to choose red. This is cranberry. I love this color. And just kind of guess. I would say like 12 to 15 inches cut maybe. You can play with it. If you cut more than you need, it's okay. You can trim your scarf. Now, if you want your scarf to be a little bit more fancy and you don't just want it to be like one piece of yarn, what you can do is just take your scarf yarn and you can make a foundational chain with it, just like you did at the beginning. So then it looks like he's wearing a thicker scarf. And that's how I made the scarf that looks thicker, is that's all I did. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my yarn and wrap it around Mr. Snowman's head. Kind of make sure that my edges are equal. Then I kind of take go to the side, and I'm just going to tie it and make a knot. So tie it tight twice. And there you go. So obviously my little scarf is a little bit uneven, so I would just trim it off a little bit so it looks clean and nice. There you go. You have a chunky knit snowman. How cute is he? Yes, this video is going to just stay in here permanently in this group. So it isn't going to go anywhere. You can refer back to this as many times as you need to. So how cute. See, The little nose sticks out, so you can just kind of play with it. Again, you can play with the eyes and the nose placement. If you don't like the way it looks when you've got it created and you're like, my eyes look funky, the nose looks funky, I don't feel like it's in the right place, just pull it out and put it where it looks right to you. That is the most beautiful thing about playing with chunky yarn, is it's forgivable. Okay, so let's say, I'll teach you guys how to fix a gap. So let's say you have like, you can kind of see a space in your snowman where you have a little bit of polyfill, and it just depends on how tight your rows were. Okay, so like for example, earlier I made this one, and you can kind of see there's a little bit of a gap here, and then I have a little bit of a gap here in my head. Let's see if I did any gaps. I did pretty good on this one. But okay, so here's kind of a row right here where there's like a gap. You can kind of see a little bit of the polyfill sticking out. Here's a trick. Take a piece of your yarn, cut it off, stick it just like you kind of did with your eyes, where you see the rows coming across this way. You're just going to take your yarn and you're going to just fill in that little gap. So you'll no longer see the polyfill, and you just stuck a little piece of yarn in there so you don't see it at all. Okay, so that is how you fix a little gap if you do have one in your snowman. Now, if you want to make a snowman that's a little bit bigger, so just for reference, this is 12 inches. This is about 12 inches, so this is pretty decent size. I would say this is a large snowman. Now, if you want to make one a different size, just make sure that you're using like an even number. So tonight we did 12 foundational loops. So let's say you want to go a little bit bigger, you want your snowman to be a little bit taller, do 16 foundational loops or 18 or 20. You can play with that as much as you want, and then just make sure that you're always decreasing that by 1. So if you're doing 16, then you should have 12 when you go to build the head. So just know that when you're decreasing, you should have 4 less. If that makes sense. So we started off with 12 here on the bottom, and then by the time we got to the middle and we did our decrease, we ended up with 8. So the same thing, if you're going to start off with 16 and you want your snowman to be bigger, by the time you get here and you do your decrease, you should have 12 loops left, and then continue to build from the top. So I hope that makes sense. And there is, if you go into the featured section of this group, there is a wonderful lady named Barb in this group who did create a pattern to show you how to actually crochet. If you know how to crochet, you're awesome. I do not. I'm going to learn though. That's on my to-do list. I've been a little busy. But she did a beautiful pattern on how to crochet a cute little snowman hat and a scarf if you want to do something different. Now, I know that you can, and I haven't done it yet, but I know that you can just take chunky yarn. Let's say I wanted Mr. Snowman to have a blue hat. I know that you can take chunky yarn, kind of where you think the hat is going to sit, and you can just kind of weave it in, and then just like create loops that stick up like knits, like this kind of. So you're just going to kind of play with it, and you're going to create like knits where you'd go like this, and then you would knit and keep knitting that all the way around the top of his head to create your own cute little hat. Now, I think Mr. Snowman looks super cute even without a hat. So I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's tutorial. I'm so thankful that you're here. If you are confused about something, just go back and rewatch this. Refer to the PDF file that I uploaded in here today as a good point of reference. Sometimes it takes a few times in order for you to kind of watch something to catch on. And I've made several of these now, so I might have made it seem easy, but I wasn't when I first made my first one either. So, oh, Linda, it's Linda. Thank you so much. I'm saying it's you, Barb, because your name pops up so often. So thank you for correcting me. So it's actually Linda who did the pattern to crochet a beautiful snowman hat and a beautiful scarf. And then she does like pretty buttons and stuff. And again, you can play with this, but I wanted to just teach you guys tonight how to create a Chunky Knit Snowman just using Chunky Knit and not having to do anything else besides the simplicity of this. So thank you guys for being here. I will be putting up a beginner class. I think I'm going to host one on November 25th. So if you're new to this and you've never made a hand knit chunky blanket, I would love for you to be a part of my class. I teach it in a live format like this. It's $15. And then I have my flower cable stitch class that I'm teaching on the 20th. So a week from today. I'm really excited to teach that beautiful pattern. I have like 30 plus people already signed up for that class. I will post the links for both of my classes in this group so you guys can see, and anything important is always pinned to the featured section of this group as well for you to easily navigate what you need to find in this group. So I'm excited for the growth of this group and to just continue to grow with us and learn from one another, and just put some really awesome valuable content in here. So I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your week, and we will see you again really soon.